All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Sage Pacheco. I'm the Marketing and Customer Experience Specialist here at Wisecon Engineering. Thank you for attending our Precision Agriculture webinar using closed loop irrigation, welcoming Ag Monitor as our guest today. We work very closely with Ag Monitor through our integration. We have seen our growers have a lot of success while utilizing both of our services. So we wanted to showcase them and what they do and how well they do it. Today we have Kevin Lingham with Ag Monitor. We are going to hear from him here shortly, and he will go over what Ag Monitor does and some of their success that they have seen through our integration. There will be a Q&A at the end of the webinar for about 15 minutes. So if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please drop them in the Q&A box and we will answer them towards the end. If there are any issues with sound or screen visuals, just please let us know in the Q&A box as well. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Wisecon and what we do and what we specialize in. So for those of you that don't know, Wisecon is a high-tech irrigation management company. We were founded in 2006 and we came to California in 2015. We are a Chilean-based company serving over 300,000 acres with over 10,000 nodes currently deployed in fields. In California alone, we have 15 dealers and distributors that we work with and 20 throughout the United States. We have distributors throughout California, Pacific Northwest, and the Southeast United States. We have over 2,000 users in 5 countries: Argentina, Chile, US, Peru, and Mexico. We have a fully staffed support team and warehouse here in the US and California, as well as in Chile. And we have 7 API integrators, which I will go into here shortly, since that's what we're focusing on here today. We have an open API that we can connect with any other company to share data, to better analyze and support growers' needs. So what is Drop Control? We are an online irrigation management system. We like to refer to Drop Control as the remote control of your operation. So Drop Control is a reliable irrigation monitoring and control system. We pride ourselves on being the forefront of the automation industry. Automated irrigation is what we specialize in. It's our bread and butter. However, we actually have our hand in many other telemetry aspects as well. The first feature of that control system is going to be the pump start stop, as well as wireless valve control, opening and closing a valve, sequential valve operation, per variety irrigation, you may name it. We also focus on weather analysis through the use of weather stations. We distribute Davis weather stations, but we can read the data directly from the hardware itself in the field, or we can utilize our open API integrations to read any existing weather station you have in your field as well, including CIMIS. We do a lot of soil moisture monitoring. We are sensor agnostic, meaning that we can use our open protocol sensor in the field that we can retrieve data from to read on our platform as well. So it does not need to be a soil moisture sensor that we sell or install. If you have a sensor that has an open protocol, we can read into it. And of course, we offer full remote capabilities, meaning from your phone, desktop, iPad, etc. You can turn on and off your pump, schedule irrigations, monitor soil moisture, look at weather reports or forecasts, all from your device, in the office, in the field, at home, wherever you are. We are comprised of hardware and software. Going into our hardware, these are our 3 in-field nodes. So in the middle, starting with our X1 node, this is our monitoring and control node. So kind of our flagship node, like we call it, has full monitoring and control capabilities, all within the same node in the field. To the right is our M1 node. That is our sole monitoring unit, monitoring soil moisture probes, weather station, any other sensors you have out in the field. This can read it for you. It can operate as its own radio unit. Drop Control actually uses 900 megahertz frequency that all the nodes talk to each other on. This information then goes to the cloud. So essentially the M1 node could either be a cellular gateway in itself or a radio module then to read for the gateway, either the X1 or the C1. And going into the C1, our most sophisticated and in-depth node, this is our pump filter station control node. So the C1 can actually start and stop 5 different pumps in 10 different valves, as well as fertilizer pump and acid injections. Moving into our software. As mentioned before, you can control and manage anything from a mobile device or computer. If you're scheduling an irrigation, you can do so on your device or on our mobile app. It all goes through Amazon Web Services, then to the WiseCon server, then all goes to the gateway node in the field, and then the commands get sent to the radio nodes within the field as well. And this can all be also done through a third-party platform. So you can schedule your irrigations through another company's platform, such as Ag Monitor, and our hardware will execute it in the field. And as mentioned before, we can also share data with other companies through our API. We offer a desktop version. This is a quick snapshot of the web page, as well as a mobile app available on Apple or Android. Here is something similar that you would see if you were viewing your account through the drop control on the desktop. So a map is created using a KMZ file on Google Earth with the exact coordinates of your ranch. We then place the location of each node onto this virtual map with all of the information and sensors that are configured to each individual node. So any soil moisture sensor, weather sensor, pressure switch, anything you have tied to a node, you're going to be able to see what is configured to each node in the field on this platform here. You can also see charging status, signal, all within the same platform. And we focus on easy to schedule, user-friendly platforms. So you have your 4 modes of scheduling by zone, one by one. You have immediate. If you're there out in the field and you need to start an irrigation right away, you can use immediate irrigation. We also offer group irrigation, so multiple zones at one time. And then of course, programs and templates, which I will go into here in a bit. A couple actions you will see right when you enter drop control into your scheduling tab is start and stop. So if you need to stop an irrigation anytime, it'll start right away. And then you can always start right back where you left off. As mentioned before, we specialize in automated irrigation specifically by scheduling. There are 3 ways to control how much or how long your irrigation will run, and that's by end date and time, volume, or the most common duration, so hours, minutes, whatever you prefer. Once you select your customized irrigation tactic, drop control will calculate the volume of water being put on, as well as the end date and time. So you'll know exactly how much you're going to put on and when your irrigation is going to end. We can also schedule acid and fertilizer injections, as you can see here. Going into those templates and programs to utilize, our templates are showing what's happening within a specific set or a specific day, or maybe even a week. And then that program is then using a selected template for a specific amount of time. So how long you want that template to run, whether it's for a couple of days, weeks, months, whatever you want to do. Templates and programs are a really helpful tool when you want to run similar sets through a duration of time. You can also schedule different zones for different durations by volume, multiple times in a day, whatever you need to do. Templates and programs are pretty flexible. And using the irrigation scheduling tab, after you schedule your irrigation, you can use this 24-hour Gantt chart to see your scheduled irrigation in the dark blue boxes up top. And then you're able to see what actually happened, so the executed irrigations just down below. You can also view them in a weekly view, so see what's happening Monday through Sunday. And you can always export this to print out, send to anyone on your operation, so everyone's in the loop at all times. We also have the ability to view operational feedback based on your sensors, volume and flow, duration. This is all calculated to show you what actually happened. So you just run your cursor over the executed irrigation tab, and you'll be able to see all this information that happened during an irrigation event. Manual operation, you can also see on your scheduler anytime. When you execute a manual operation by hand, it's going to show up in this gold color, and it will also show you the volume that is put out and the duration of time of the manual. So it's not just the autonomous irrigation that you would be able to see. Peak hours. So obviously peak hour mode would be very helpful this time of year, if not all year. So this is a helpful feature because it not only presents on your daily view what hours that peak hour mode is set for, which you can also edit at any time if peak hours change, but it will also alert you when you schedule an irrigation and you're going to go into peak hour. So if you're just 1 minute over 4 p.m. or 5 p.m., Drop Control will alert you before your irrigation is scheduled. Hey, you're entering a peak hour. Do you want to continue? And you'll have the availability to continue your execution or go back and edit it so you're not entering peak. Here is another weekly view, but from an API point of view, which kind of what we're talking about today. This is relevant when we talk about Ag Monitor and what they do. So how this works for growers that they would receive a recommendation proposal or something like that from a company using historical data, analytics, however that company measures what they think should be happening at that operation. And then they give you a recommendation for a duration of time, a volume they should be putting on, etc. And then you'd be able to see this on your Drop Control account. So this is their proposed irrigation recommendation. And this is also bi-directional. So we can display our data or schedules onto another company's platform as well as we can see theirs on Drop Control. And this is really where closing the loop comes into play. This is what sets our two companies apart, using that API irrigation directly. We're actually closing the gap during closed loop irrigation. So we're making it not much of a hassle on a grower to be able to use two different platforms. We're able to put it all on one. Wisecon has 7 API integrations, so we are very experienced with the process of working with a third-party company like Ag Monitor and implementing their recommendations or their proposals. And when a recommendation is confirmed by the grower, this is what they would see. So before it was just a recommendation or proposal, and now this is confirmed by the grower and ready to execute. We offer a mass approval button, so allowing you to approve multiple irrigations at once instead of one by one. And then of course, single approval. So if you only want to approve 1 or 2 at a time, you're able to do that as well. Continuing on with some of the other features offered on Drop Control. When we get into flow meter readings, we're able to see accumulated volume from a set time frame, such as throughout a season, a couple months, as well as cross-referencing that with flow readings. In this example, we're seeing the weekly accumulated volume with flow. Here we are showing custom charts, which is available on Drop Control to see 2 or 3 or even more different variables being read at multiple times. So we're seeing 3 different pumps here over a 2-week span. So you can view multiple pumps, all that good stuff on custom charts. If we were on Drop Control, we'd be able to hover over these lines and be able to view the exact PSI. Soil moisture monitoring is a tool we use greatly in the field. So as mentioned before, we use soil moisture probes with sensors that reach any depths from 4 to 60 inches. These sensors collect soil moisture readings that are then shown on your Drop Control soil moisture analysis tab. And you're also able to view moisture readings compared to irrigations that were ran, or rainfall, or ET. As you can see here in the bottom in the blue and yellow columns, you're able to see those irrigation events and then the moisture readings that were accumulated during them. Our weather analysis tab allows you to view temperature and humidity, as well as rainfall and ET. Our weather analysis now includes an in-depth 5-day forecast showing, as well as current readings of wind speed, direction, hourly and daily rainfall, temperature, low highs, all that good stuff is implemented into your weather forecast based on a weather station, or like I said, CIMAS. Frost protection is another tool that we offer. You can set a minimum temperature to alert you when you're entering a frost event. The highest temperature that you'll be able to see frost around 32 degrees, you can set as your minimum. And you can also set an alert to notify you when the temperature is surpassing your critical limits that you personally set. You can also set up an action with support to automatically start an irrigation event or any action to happen really when you enter in specific temperature ranges. You also have the ability to set chill hours. This is showing us accumulated chill hours from November to May. Alarms and alerts are a very useful tool, like I just mentioned. Alerts can be set up by the grower on their drop control account, very easy. When your temperatures are surpassing the threshold or when your soil moisture is not where you want it, you can receive an alert. That should be an SMS, text, email, or robocall. And then alarms can be set up for you, like I said, through the support team for an actual execution or an action to happen. All right, so ROI, something that we focus on a lot here at WiseCon, yield increase in this case was very significant. So this testimonial featuring Tom Rogers is on our YouTube channel, one of our many success stories, one of our largest ones. Tom actually lost a well in the beginning of summer and still saw a 5 to 10% increase in yield and 30% water savings just while using drop control. So this was very significant for Tom, not only while using a well, but still saving water in the meantime. So this was pretty huge. And getting more into the process of our closed loop irrigation with companies like Ag Monitor. So this graphic can give you a better understanding of the interaction between us as well as dealers and distributors. You have your client or grower working with WiseCon for support or service, and then the dealer or distributor for installation. And then lastly, the integrator. So in this case, Ag Monitor working directly with the grower as well as with us. As mentioned before, our companies are closing the gap between integrations, making the most seamless possible process for our growers. And Kevin is actually going to show us a case study from a specific ranch where that success was shown using both of our companies. Here are some of the other companies we are integrated with, of course, Ag Monitor, but we have an open API as mentioned, so we can connect with any company that connects with our API and exchange data. So it's a very smooth process on both ends.
Cool. So as I said, my name is Kevin Langham. I am a program director here at Ag Monitor. And Ag Monitor is a software company that is focused on improving crop yield while reducing the cost of water and energy inputs. Today, we're going to talk about closed loop irrigation and show how we help growers irrigate more precisely through integration with WiseCon and our platform. Just a quick overview of the different things I want to talk about today. You'll get a little introduction so you guys know who we are. And then we're going to talk about these two loops is what we call them. The first is the agronomic loop. We're going to show you how to implement the best irrigation plan to get the best crop. And then we're going to talk about the operational loop, which really touches on the difficulty of implementing technology and how our software can make things easier and avoid waste to save some money. Okay, so who are Ag Monitor? Who are we? We were founded in 2013, said we're a software company. We have a dual culture where our main office is in the Bay Area. It's where we get all of our developers to produce our software. And our second office is in Fresno, actually at Fresno State. So we kind of bring both sides, the tech side from the Bay Area and the ag side from the Central Valley. We're deployed right now in over 120,000 acres. And throughout this process over the last 8 years, we've developed a lot of partnerships, primarily with growers, utilities like PG&E and SCE, and then also a lot of universities to make sure all of the information in our system is cutting edge and the most recent, from the most recent research. So what do? We produce enterprise software for agriculture. If you guys look on the screen in the background right now, all those green squares are different ranches that we're working with around Fresno right now. And for each of those ranches, what we do is we bring in data from different sources, whether it's a smart meter from your utility, maybe satellite data, agronomic sensors being measured on something like WiseCon, or even manually integrated data. We bring them all onto our platform, agmonitor.com, and then we produce simple solutions for the farming operation. And these range from potentially a text message alert that a pump went down for a ranch crew in the field, potentially a weekly report. You guys will see an example of this that translates all different types of things going on with the ranch and the pumps so that an entire team can communicate about problems. And then simple monthly dashboards for someone like a GM or a director of farming that help you understand what's going on at a high level to track the company's progress. So when we say enterprise software, what that really means is we have software that helps different types of people within a farming operation. And in the irrigation loop, there are sort of three different roles: the agronomist, the ranch manager, and the director of farming that are part of that. And small operations, this could be just one person wearing these hats. In larger operations, it's typically three. But we've built a system that caters to each of these. And as a whole team, we help them by optimizing their workflow, saving them time and money, improving communication, because like I said, it's all on one platform, so they can see what everyone else is doing, catching issues early, whether that's crop stress, broken pumps, operating during peak, some easy examples, and overall growing better crops. Now, just to dive in briefly on how these different types of people within a farming operation would use the platform, you know, an agronomist thinks in inches. They are setting the irrigation schedule for the week. And our platform allows them to scale their recommendations across several fields or even several thousand acres in less than an hour. We have things like preset forecasts based on ET and crop coefficients that are customizable, data on what's happened recently, information from agronomic sensors, and then the ability to translate those inches into hours, which is important because ranch managers, who are typically in charge of scheduling those irrigations, often think in hours and with labor constraints. And they use the system to save themselves time and catch equipment issues earlier. You know, they have a simple schedule they can work with to implement the suggestion from the agronomist, and they can print schedules for manual irrigation scenarios and foremen, or they can send them directly to automation systems like Wisecons. And then finally, you know, a director of farming, they don't really think in inches or hours. They think high level. They're looking at budgets. And the system gives a high level overview of how the operation is progressing throughout the season when it comes to accuracy, how much water is being applied, is it the right amount, precision, are they implementing the actual plan that was set here accurately, and water budget. You know, where are you in terms of your total water application this year? And where are you projected to end? Something that's really important in context of SGMA right now, which is limiting a lot of growers' access to water. So being able to track where you are and project is an important piece of the puzzle. Okay, so that was just a high level or introduction overview. I'm gonna start getting into some of the details and show you guys some examples. And this first section is the agronomic loop. And what this is going to do is we're going to look at the agronomic view of things and show you how to implement the best irrigation plan or the optimal irrigation plan and get your best crop by leveraging the system. Okay, so the example I want to show here is from a large almond grower in Winters, where we did a little study with them. They have several thousand acres, but we worked with them on a 400-acre almond orchard that had some issues. They actually had 3 different soil types in the field, and they weren't able to irrigate to those soil types. They had to just do one fixed irrigation for the whole field, and it was causing issues. I'm actually going to play a little video here, see if this works while I'm talking. So what we did in 2019 with them was we integrated Wisecon, put in 20 different valves that allowed them to irrigate the field differently. And we implemented continuous pump testing to track those pumps. And the result was that we were able to get a lot more uniformity and reduce the stress across the field because we were able to irrigate to the different levels. And that was the first step in 2019. Now in 2020, we wanted to take that to the next level. We had this system in place. They had great control over what was happening. So they wanted to see if they could bring down their total irrigation overall and implement a whole split deficit strategy. So this is essentially reducing the irrigation around whole split. And if you're going to be reducing your irrigation under ET, it's important to have sensors in place to track, to make sure you're not overstressing the crop. In this case, they got series imagery to better track crop stress at a high level. And they integrated soil moisture sensors, you can see an example there on the video, to track soil water balance at any given time. So when they were reducing water, they knew they weren't overstressing their crop. And what you see here, these little bars show the comparison of actual irrigation in the dark blue and ET for the week in the light blue. And in these last 4 weeks around whole split, they irrigated significantly under ET, but that was planned. That was what they wanted to do. And because they were getting the feedback from the system, they were able to make sure they weren't over stressing, but still saving water. And the result in this case was they were actually able to reduce their water use compared to their historical usage by about 20% at this field, which was energy savings, water savings, and of course, cost savings. And all of this at the same time, they were able to get a good quantity yield, about 3,900 pounds per acre, and maintain good quality nuts, which is important in all this. If you're reducing your energy and water and your yield is going down or your quality is going down, it doesn't make sense. So how did they accomplish this? Well, in this case, it was a combination of better planning, implementation, and pump management. And I'll show you guys 3 different slides to look at how they accomplished that right now. Okay, so on the planning side, when you're looking at like an agronomist job, you're looking at how many inches get scheduled every week. And across a large range of sets, blocks, or fields, you need a system in place that makes it a little easier to schedule that. So in our system, this is what we offer. We support both manual and automated fields. In some cases, agronomists are able to set their schedules, or recommendations, I should say, on thousands of acres in less than an hour. And we do this by showing forecasted ETC here based on actual ET data and the university recommended crop coefficients that are customizable. We always have customization in here in case you guys have some preference other than what the UCCE recommends. We show what's happened in the last couple of weeks in terms of irrigation. We'll connect you directly with agronomic sensors like those soil moisture sensors I just showed in the previous slide. You can just click there and see the data for soil moisture on that block. And then your recommendation, which importantly is translated into hours here. And having all this information and all this data that's pulled in to one simple page that allows you to make your recommendation and send it, allows you to save a lot of time and scale pretty easily. And this is what this grower near Winters did. Now, when you set your recommendations, that's great, but you want to know what happened. And we do this through something called a crop alert, where we're tracking the water in the root zone at any given time compared to the water that the crop needs. And we will generate an alert if we see an imbalance. In this case, on our management page, looks like a bunch of greens here, a bunch of green fields that are doing well. And then we have one red alert. And if you click on this, you can see a little detail of the water budget for the year. You know, there's several lines here, but what we're tracking on a per block or per field basis is what's your actual application. It's the darker blue line compared to your plan in the black line, and then a full ET or a partial ET schedule. So in this case, you can see this blue line kind of flattened out. This was during harvest, and they actually had some pump issues and weren't able to irrigate for a while. And the system picked that up and generated an alert, said they were down on inches. You know, you can compare that to something like this top field here, where if you track the blue and the black lines, they're very close. It's, you know, less than a ½ inch off there, staying perfectly on their plan. And having the integration to track these and view your progress during the season, but also at the end when you have yield, looking at your performance, how well did you follow their plan, gives a lot of basically feedback on how you did and allows you to improve incrementally throughout the season. So that is the agronomic side of things, you know, planning and getting management, which result in water savings. But in order to get cost savings, you need to make sure you save energy as well. And in irrigation, that means managing your pumps better. We have a product called Pump Monitor, which is made to do just that, is to better manage your pumps. We measure your energy use from your smart meters in the utility. We track water use and your efficiency that we can estimate from your smart meter. And what we're able to do is detect potential issues and give you feedback on pump efficiency. And the example here, this is actually from that same grower near Winters. They installed a VFD in 2019. And there was a little miscommunication between the dealer, the installer, and it was actually not quite installed right. And it was operating overclocked. So it was damaging the motor. And what you see in this red circle here is a graph of that pump's energy use in orange. And the black line is the pump's efficiency every time that pump is being turned on. Now you see it's really low here because that pump is being overclocked. Through our system, they were able to see that, talk to their dealer, fix the problem. And then for the rest of the season, they were operating very consistently around 65, 70% OPE, which is fantastic for a pump like that. And we're looking at the whole irrigation system. If you really want to get cost savings, which most people want, and a good yield, you have to make sure your pumps are still operating efficiently and giving you the water output that you need. So for this grower, what happened? Well, they were able to get pretty good savings. They had an annual energy bill reduction of about $17,000 due to being able to manage better application of where and when that water was needed. And given what they invested, because of course they needed, or they required some hardware in place from Wisecon, they required our software. But because of these savings, they were able to pay that back in about 2.8 years, which is pretty good. And when looking at projects like this that require savings, we do something called a sensitivity analysis, and that's this table here below, where we look at different scenarios of savings and tell them what that would result in terms of bill reduction, but also payback period. If they wanted to be aggressive and try and cut water by 25%, you could pay back a project like this in about 2 years with a $20,000 savings a year. Now, maybe you're already irrigating kind of efficiently. You don't want to be that aggressive. You want to start small. Even a 10% savings, you're still getting about a 5.5-year payback. And in reality, every year is not going to be the same. It's important to look at that variation and take it into account when looking at projects like this. Now, if you are getting savings like this and you're tracking the data through a system like ours, it enables certain types of financing options. An example of that is on-bill financing, which is offered through utility by the CPUC. And the main premise of this is that you can get a loan with 0% interest, 0% down, of up to $250,000 per project if you're getting consistent energy savings. EE stands for energy efficiency. Now, the only catch here is that you have to pay that back over a 10-year term. So if your project costs $100,000, you need to save at least $10,000 a year to pay that back over the course of the project. Now, this does require a fair amount of paperwork, analysis, gathering data, and companies like Ag Monitor are perfect to help with that. We have an existing partnership with PG&E and the relationships to help you with the paperwork and help you get in contact with the people you need to get a project through. We're helping you actually generate the savings to being able to track and plan deficit irrigation schedules and get constant feedback. And we aggregate all the data necessary to complete these applications. So when applying for something like this, leveraging a company like ours is going to make it a lot easier for you to get that money and scale across a large acreage, because when doing this at a large scale, it does take capital investment. This is an example of financing program to help with that. Okay, so that was the agronomic section. We looked at that example of the grower near Winters. We're gonna switch gears here a little bit and talk about something we call the operational loop, and that's looking at how accurately you implement your plan for irrigation in hours and reduce costs. It's challenging to implement new things, whether it's hardware, software, any sort of technology requires a change. We've developed our platform to try and make that easier and try and address some of the practical constraints growers see when implementing these. So the example for this section, this is a large farm management firm near Bakersfield. We manage about 200 pumps and 7,000 acres for them. And in 2019, they leveraged our system in combination with Wisecon and talking to their utility to irrigate off-peak. Now, when I say off-peak, what I'm talking about is the peak times for utilities. For PG&E, this is 5 to 8 p.m. For Edison, this is 4 to 9 or 5 to 8, depending on your rate. And these peak times are more expensive to operate. So the theory is if you shift your pumping to avoid those times, you can save a fair amount of money. Now, these guys did this through a combination of manual irrigation implementing timers, and implementing automated irrigation through Wisecon. Because across their 7,000 acres, there wasn't one solution that fit every farm, and Ag Monitor can fit seamlessly with any of these options. So like I said, they were trying to shift their load permanently. This is actually a program that my company is putting on. I'll talk about that a little later. But with all these things in place, software, the hardware, the recommendations, they were able to get a significant reduction in their annual energy bill. And I'll go through some slides to show you how they accomplished that and what that looked like in terms of savings. So this is a bird's eye view of what's going on right now with that operation. What we're looking at here is across all those 200 pumps, the energy use every 15 minutes. And we're looking at about a little over a week of time in September of 2021. So you can see the energy use spikes across the pumps during the day and goes down at night as expected. But the important piece here is that they are intentionally cutting their pumps right before this gray bar. And for them, this gray bar represents peak times. So you can see here, right at that time, they're reducing their peak. And this is not easy to do across a large scale. This company has done this over a couple of years. They perfected things, but this is kind of where you want to get. So the question is, how did they get here where they're avoiding peak so effectively? Well, a couple different things they used to achieve this. One of the most important pieces to the puzzle they told us was that you need to track what you're doing every week. And in this case, because it's about timing and precision, you need to track what's happening with your pumps every week. Now, Ag Monitor helps out with that with a simple weekly report that's emailed to growers every week. It's in Excel. This is an example of it here. All the data you see is real data. A couple of names have been changed to protect, grower privacy. But what this essentially does is it tells you what exactly that pump did in a given week, whether that's hours of application, water use, cost per acre foot, efficiency, or most importantly, in this case, we're telling them exactly how many hours they operated on peak that week and what that additional charge was. Because like I said, peak is more expensive. So, this grower, this pump operated 12 hours on peak. For them, it's between 5 to 8. And that cost them an additional $500. Now they are trying to not irrigate on peak at all. So this report is a simple way across, looking at 5 pumps here, but you can imagine if you had 200 pumps to just look down the list and look for anything red. And if you see issues like these, like these times where they operated on peak, you can catch them and correct them. So this is a low resolution view. You can figure out if you did operate on peak or not. But the next step is, well, okay, when did I operate on peak? And for a higher resolution view, we offer that as well in something called a calendar schedule. So here we are showing for all these different fields, every day of the week, when irrigation was running. All these little blocks are sets of irrigation. Of course, this is an actual week for one of the growers we work with. You can see that it kind of varies on a set-to-set basis. And we work directly with automated and manual systems. In this case, all the blue are manually irrigated sets. In this one field, green is set up with automation through Wisecon. And once they set the schedule, and by the way, they can use templates to make this easier to copy paste things so you don't have to manually do this. They either send it directly to Wisecon if those pumps are automated, and this schedule will just be implemented, no questions asked. Or if you have manual irrigation, you can approve the schedule and get a PDF printout of the schedule to give to your foreman. So in this case, having the high resolution to see what's going on is important. You might not be able to notice, it's kind of light on this picture, but there are orange bars going through all these fields. And this is to represent the peak times. So you can see exactly when each irrigation set operated on peak. This one went right through peak this day. And you can actually make corrections. In this case, this one's yellow because this automated set was stopped because someone had programmed it to run through peak. Someone at the field noticed it and then they manually stopped it and we recorded that. So it's important to be able to see peak times, schedule around it, but then get feedback on what happened that week to diagnose and solve issues. So we talked about the weekly report, knowing what's going on. We talked about scheduling to know how many hours and when to irrigate with those hours. And we want to look at something here called precision. And this is, in our case, I'm defining this as the comparison of your planned irrigation set in hours compared to your actual hours. That's precision, irrigation precision. We did a study with the state over about 10,000 acres in 6 counties and found that in the growers we looked at, the average precision was 70%, which means if a grower scheduled 10 hours for that week, the actual implemented hours were anywhere from 7 to 13 hours. Now, bringing it back to our example from the first section from the grower near Winters, we actually tracked their precision on a week-to-week basis across a number of different fields. And we compared it between fields that were manually irrigated, and this is the dotted line here, week to week, and those which were irrigated using automation in WiseCon. That's the black line on top here. And one thing that we learned from this is that the automation made it a lot easier to have higher precision. You know, you're scheduling something online, you can see when peak times are, you can control when the pump turns on and off. It becomes easier practically to do things like avoid peak. And if you want to get real savings from peak, and you want to make sure your crops are getting the right amount of water when they need it, good precision is recommended. And we were really able to see a lot higher precision with the fields that were using the automation in tandem with our system. So back to our example here, you know, in 2019, that large grower, they tried to irrigate off peak and they were pretty successful at it. So the question is, how much did they save? Well, we have a dashboard that allows you to track at a high level annual savings in addition to water energy use. This is a little screenshot of it down here. And in this case, in 2019, they were able to reduce their annual energy bill by 45%. This was from a combination of peak management, which I just talked about in the slides here. They also had a little bit of surface water in 2019, a little more than the last year, so that helped. But the result here was that we saw about $230,000 of savings from this implementation. Now, of course, on a case-to-case basis, this is going to vary. You won't always see savings this high, but the system allows you to practically get those savings, and our dashboard allows growers to see the benefits for themselves as they're occurring and at the end of the year. So going off this project, you know, we saw this was a great result for the grower. Significant load was shifted, which benefited the grid, and significant savings were seen, which benefited the grower. And when we talked to other growers about this, they mentioned a lot of practical difficulties in doing this. You know, shifting irrigation to not operate your pumps at certain times is very difficult for certain operations. And so we got some funding, Ag Monitor got funding from the California Energy Commission to help growers irrigate off peak and run a permanent load shifting program. Now, the idea behind the program is pretty straightforward. We provide software and partnership with different hardware companies to help growers avoid those peak times, 5 to 8 or 4 to 9. And the result was we had an average bill reduction of 15 to 30%. So with our system in this program, we want to show you the potential savings that you can get from something like this. Create a customized plan for you that works with your operation, whether that's hardware, whether that's software, and allow you to follow a predictable irrigation schedule to get significant cost savings. And like I mentioned earlier, we have the partnership with PG&E and we have the partnership with the Energy Commission, which really helps us implement these plans. So just end of the day, you know, Ag Monitor is here. We want to empower growers. We want to help you save water, help you save energy, and ultimately improve your yield. And if you guys have any questions, you can ask them down in the Q&A session, or feel free to reach out to me. I have my email there on the screen. It's just kevin@agmonitor.com. All right.
All right, there's just a couple questions in the Q&A, not too many. The first one, how do you get frost protection on drop control? So if you have a drop control account, This is just a simple user setting on your weather dashboard. So if you click on your weather dashboard on the right-hand side, you would see settings and there's a frost text box. So you could put in any degree that you feel that your frost event would occur at. And then you can not only see that on your weather chart, but you can set up an alert to get that text, call, or email if you're entering that temperature as well. And then, like I mentioned, if you want to implement an action or an irrigation event to happen when you're reaching those frost temperatures, you can set that up with our support team. So if you email or call us, let them know that you want to set an alarm, or I'm sorry, yeah, an alarm to start an action when you're entering frost, they can do that for you. So it's pretty simple. Let's see. All right, Kevin, what among the things that Ag Monitor talked about being able to do is WiseCon platform already capable of doing?
I can talk a little bit about this.
Okay.
When we work with WiseCon, WiseCon enables us to get access to data is one of the big things through their telemetry network, to bring more data onto our system to get better recommendations, and enables pump automation. So without the WiseCon stuff in place, our system wouldn't be able to control pumps. We leverage them for that. And then, WiseCon does have some solutions for that. Where we're a little different is, we're bringing data from all sorts of different sources. For example, we're bringing in all the utility data, so energy usage, billing, and to be able to look at that agronomic information or pump information in context of how much things are costing, putting that all in one system to optimize it is sort of what our bread and butter is in this case. And I don't know, Sage, if you wanted to take a stab at that also. I think that was sort of what they were asking. Maybe I didn't answer that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty solid. I think just I guess it's just really like the working together platform, like you were saying, like there's a lot of things that you would see on Drop Control that are also available on Ag Monitor. So it's really just working hand in hand, and being able to see, information on both platforms. But I think you answered it correctly. If not, let us know. What is the typical crop per drop improvement using Crop Monitor?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to vary in a lot of cases. I believe the numbers from our Energy Commission study was about 15 to 20% is the average improvement. It's going to depend on where you are. Some people are pretty optimized in what they're doing. I just saw a question come in from a grower that talked about already using drop control and optimizing a lot of things. So they might be a little closer to optimal. And it's a balance of essentially how you operate. In the example we looked at, the grower near Winters, they were over irrigating because they had 3 different types of soil. And so their actual application, a lot of water was going to waste because they had to irrigate to the most porous soil in order to make sure that part of the field didn't get underwatered. So there was the ability there to optimize that with hardware and software and get pretty good savings. I think they got something closer to 20%. But it's going to be a case by case basis and a crop by crop basis. And part of working with us is we'll do a little bit of analysis with you earlier on to help you get an idea of where that could be.
Yeah, to kind of further, I guess, add on to the question in the Q&A. If you're already using Drop Control, obviously our goal is to help you save water and improve yields and quality, as well as Ag Monitor. It's both of our goals. So I can reach out to you to kind of talk about what more we can do to improve your Drop Control system and experience to make it a little better, as well as looking into Ag Monitor as kind of a dual solution. And then as well as the grant. So grants are huge, obviously, especially right now in our current conditions. I think there's always possibility for a grant, especially, with SWEEP coming up and a lot of other incentive programs. I think there's always possibility to improve at least something. So we can reach out to you and kind of talk about possibilities there to make you even more efficient for sure.
One more quick note on that, Sage. I talked about the OBF financing today was part of the conversation. For this particular grower that was asking about options for them, if we do a little study and find out that there are significant savings on the board and we have the hardware and software in place for you to do those and achieve those savings over the next 10 years consistently, OBF is definitely something you can consider.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and drop my information as well as Kevin's in the chat box for you guys. If you have any more questions, please feel free to hang out and ask. Otherwise, just you can go ahead and email us. And Kevin has his information right there on the screen as well. All right, well, if there's no further questions, you guys are free to go. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you got some good, useful information. This was recorded, so this will be sent out to all of you that were on the webinar. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kevin.